Hi, this is attorney Jamie Miller, and I'm excited to welcome you to another episode of the Miller Law Chronicles. Today we have one of our star employees in Matt Rietbrock, who's a legal assistant here at Miller. His focus at the firm is to help people get their cases filed. So once we have all of the documents, he works with the lawyers to make sure that all of the documents and information is accurate and correct to get the bankruptcy petitions filed with the court. Matt's been here for a couple years. During the podcast today, he's going to tell you a little bit about his upbringing in Oconomowoc, his high school Catholic Memorial, his time at University of Dubuque. We also get into, is he a Jif or a Skippy person, or Twizzlers or Red Vine? So listen in, you'll get answers to all of those questions. I really appreciate you listening in and would urge you to go to YouTube and follow the Miller & Miller page, where you'll find our videos of these podcasts, but also would really appreciate it if you go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and like and subscribe and follow the Miller Law Chronicles podcast. It will allow us to continue to bring this free content to you on a weekly basis. Thank you so much for listening in. I'm really excited to have you hear Matt Rietbrock's story. Thank you. Hello, this is attorney Jamie Miller, and we are here today for another episode of the Miller Law Chronicles podcast. Really excited today that I have a special person here that's worked at Miller & Miller for just over 2 years in Matt Rietbrock. Matt is a legal assistant, a wonderful person to have around the office who spends a lot of time working with the lawyers in our office and working with our clients to help them get their bankruptcies filed. Matt, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. And I started doing this series of podcasts a few weeks ago, and I want to take the opportunity of the podcast to have our clients and our listeners get to know our staff and the great people that work here at Miller & Miller a little bit better. And I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me to do the podcast. It's wonderful. I know sometimes it's not easy kind of putting yourself out there and all of that, but great having you. Tell us a little bit, give me the upbringing, the life of Matt Rietbrock.
Yeah, so I've been in Wisconsin my entire life, other than a couple years in college. I was in Iowa, so Wisconsin, and especially southeastern Wisconsin, is home to me, right over in Oconomowoc, not too far away. Spent my fair share of time in Milwaukee, in the city, with the sports teams and everything that I've grown to love over my life. Very big into sports, really, you name it, I've played it or watched it professionally. Went to school, got a degree in criminal justice with a business minor, and really after school was looking for some place that could help people, that I wasn't too afraid of what kind of law I was going to be working in, but I knew I wanted to be somewhere where I was making a difference on people's lives and helping them get to a better situation. And from the moment I got here, I could tell that's what Miller & Miller is all about. And since then, about 2 years ago, it's been great, just kind of helping as many people as we can.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And there's a lot of information packed in there. I want to break it out just a little bit. So you indicated that you grew up in Oconomowoc. And so you went to elementary school. And how'd you end up at Catholic Memorial? Because I think that's where you went to high school.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of ways from Oconomowoc. Growing up, I went to a Catholic elementary school, and so kindergarten through 8th grade. And then when it came time to start looking at high schools, my options were the local public school or Catholic Memorial. And I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where my parents could help me go to Catholic Memorial, where with some public schools, you you're a number to some degree. And especially for me, where I was at that time, I needed the individual help. I needed kind of help growing up and learning how to do school. So being able to go to Catholic Memorial, where smaller class sizes, more one-on-one attention, and it prepared me much more for college and the work life much better than I think a public school would have done.
Right. So when you were, for me, I grew up in Ohio, and I kind of was a troublemaker growing up. I got into good trouble. I was the kid that, got in trouble for throwing snowballs at cars and all that kind of stuff. And I got into trouble several Halloweens and that type of thing. And were you like that, or were you, more straight and narrow rule follower?
To some degree, I was a little bit of a troublemaker. I've always been someone, I've kind of been loud, like to speak my mind, things like that. So growing up especially, that did get me into quite a bit of trouble, especially kind of in school. But yeah, kind of same, like go around a small town in Wisconsin, cause some fun trouble. We might
Right.
have ding dong ditched someone or thrown a snowball at someone, but that was about it.
Yeah, yeah, I know you're not telling me the truth. I can bet the Oconomowoc Police Department won't be listening to this podcast, but I was known on a couple of Halloweens to actually go out with my friends, and we poured gas on the street and lit the street on fire. And I also made the mistake of throwing a snowball at a car from my own yard, and the person whose car we hit. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but got out of their car and knocked on my parents' door, and I got in a lot of trouble. But I did some silly stuff, and I think like you, after going to high school, you kind of figure things out and get on the straight and narrow.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
you were an athlete also, is that correct?
Yeah, so in high school, growing up, I played kind of all the typical sports, basketball, baseball, football, things like that. Once I got into high school, I kind of started getting myself out there into more unique sports. So I was a 4-year or 4-year on the fencing team at our high school. I was a 3-year captain on varsity from my sophomore through senior year. And then as well, I picked up, when I got to high school, I picked up playing lacrosse, and as well played that from my sophomore to senior season. And then was fortunate enough to be able to go to University of Dubuque in Iowa and play with their team for a couple years with their NCAA Division III program.
What position did you play?
I was a goalie.
Okay, very nice. I love that. And do you still play at all?
I try to get out. I try to avoid playing goalie as much as possible now that it's after kind of stepping away and looking at it again, it was crazy that I ever did that in the first place.
Right. So,
But no, get out, play with some friends. Nothing real competitive like men's leagues or anything, but just get out, get in the nice weather, things like that, play a little bit.
do you have a recollection during your soccer career of like something that stands out that is the thrill of victory for you that you kind of remember?
Oh yeah. I mean, just especially so we won the state championship my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and finished second our senior year. So kind of that thrill of reaching the peak for 3 straight times, and it's not the pros or anything, but winning 3 championships in anything that you're doing consecutively is an amazing feat.
That's
Um,
amazing. So you were the goalie during championship games.
so I actually suffered quite a bit of injuries
Okay.
in high school. I tore my LCL my senior year, dealt with my fair share of concussions that really, and I mean, just kind of led from me being a kid, like to do some cool tricks, things like that, take a hit, and you're out for a couple weeks.
Right. So,
Um, so
and
I didn't play as much as I would have liked to, but just being there was,
oh
I
my
think,
God,
the best part.
just being part of that is quite the thrill. And the fact that you dealt with concussions really tells me a lot about you. Helps me to understand you better. You know, just kidding, just kidding. And then you went on and played college at the University of Dubuque.
Yep.
Nice, nice. Dubuque is a nice city. Did you enjoy
It,
being there?
yeah, it's a gorgeous city. And fun fact, it wins awards almost every year for being the best tap water in the country as well.
That's
Um,
excellent.
yeah, so but just a beautiful city right on the edge of the Mississippi. So a lot of good food. There's about 5 or 6 catfish restaurants right there. Some of the best catfish I think I've ever had.
Great. And then there's a beautiful dam, right, in Dubuque, kind of out in the
Yes,
outskirts a
I'm
little bit.
blanking on the name, but we definitely spent our fair share of days kind of sitting on the edge, kind of looking at the dam right by the harbor that boats would be parked at. They'd have nice lights there during Christmas season and things like that.
Another kind of question. What's your favorite holiday throughout the year?
Oh gosh. I am I think I'm partial to Thanksgiving. And I mean, I know it gets kind of lost in all the hubbub of Christmas season, things like that, but I feel like it's kind of that first time of the year where you start to spend more time with your family, extended family, things like that. And especially growing up, our family kind of had more extended family over on Thanksgiving rather than Christmas. So we'd go kind of all out for Thanksgiving. So I think just having those childhood memories of my entire family being at our house, getting to see everyone for that once, maybe twice a year, I think Thanksgiving kind of has a special place in my heart.
I love that. I feel the same way. And is there a particular food that you like? One thing at Thanksgiving that you just look forward to?
The stuffing.
Yeah.
Every year that's the first thing that's touching my plate.
And is there someone in your family who makes the stuffing a particular way that you like,
I
or is it
mean, my grandma used to, but my mom would kind of helped her cook every year. So after my grandmother passed, my mom kind of took over that role, and it is just as good.
excellent? Yeah. For me, it's green bean casserole.
Ooh,
Yeah, I'm big into that, and it's something that we have every year. My wife Felicia makes it, but she always only makes it for me. I'm like the only one that eats it, But it's really good with the onions on top and
oh,
the mushroom soup and mixed in, so it's all good. I also know that you're really into music. Did you ever play an instrument?
I have no musical talent whatsoever. I can't sing, can't play an instrument, nothing.
But I always know you to be one to get out to the big concerts. And what type of music do you like?
I'll really listen to anything and everything. I'm not too, especially when going to a live concert, things like that. I'm not too partial on who it is or what kind of music. I really just love going out to these live venues and appreciating the art that these people are making, that they spent their time on, that they relate to, and just hearing these works of art that each individual artist creates.
Yeah.
I think is the best part.
And is there a concert on your bucket list that you haven't seen yet that you really want to see?
I mean, I think the Rolling Stones are probably up there with their latest tour they just announced, but kind of old bands like that. Really kind of bummed about Jimmy Buffett when he wasn't able to make Summerfest and sadly passed.
Yes.
But things like the Beach Boys, I think, would be a great one to see the last members.
Right. You're kind of a throwback guy.
Yes.
Have you seen like a concert like The Who or like of one of those bands that's really been stuck with you that you really enjoyed?
So yeah, I mean, 2 years ago at Summerfest, we went to see John Fogerty
Yeah.
with the Village People opened for them.
Right.
So
Right.
that was amazing, and that whenever my grandma would pick me up from grade school, she'd be driving around in her bright green Mercury Cougar blasting Creedence Clearwater.
Isn't that
So
beautiful? I love that.
it was
And
awesome.
what's John Fogerty's big song?
Center field.
Center Field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. If I played YMCA for you, would you be able to do the dance?
Oh, easily. That was by far the most electric crowd I've ever seen.
What I had an opportunity. I saw Cool and the Gang at Summerfest. I've seen them many times, and I have a friend who knows the band pretty well. And it was at the old Miller stage at Summerfest before they
Okay.
rebuilt the new one. And
Yeah.
we were in the front row, and I was with my young kids, and we had spent the day with Cool and the Gang because my friend knew them, and they did their encore of Get Down on It and pulled my kids up from the audience. I gotta get the video for you and show you.
That is awesome.
They got to sing Get Down on It with the band. It was a great experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you and I both love music. We love concerts, and it's always fun talking to you about it. And then I also know you're really into professional sports. Is football your primary, passion?
I'd honestly say it's kind of whatever season we're in, whatever is kind of the big topic. I feel like, especially with sports, there's just so much news going on. I just have to kind of filter it out one season at a time.
Right,
So right now, I'm really into football. That's kind of slimming down now that we're coming to the end of the season, kind of picking up with the NBA, college basketball, things like that now.
right. So are you Packers? I'm sorry, not Packers. Badgers or Marquette? Which
Probably Marquette. I do know some people that have gone to Wisconsin, played for Wisconsin in different sports, things like that. But I think I'm always partial to the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, Marquette and Wisconsin play this week.
Saturday.
I know. I've been watching ticket prices. I might have to try to escape and go up there. I think as we get a little bit closer, hoping for a snowstorm and maybe the prices will get a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
more reasonable. Are you a peanut butter fan?
Love peanut butter.
Skip or Jiffy?
Skip.
Okay,
Yeah. Creamy, though. Always
creamy.
has to be creamy.
Okay. And then how about red vines or Twizzlers?
Oh, Twizzlers.
Okay.
Twizzlers. Red Vines just seem fake.
Okay. So I got you down. So it's Marquette, Skippy, and Twizzlers.
Perfect.
Okay. And then for movies, tell me your favorite movie.
I think I'm very partial to horror movies.
Okay.
I think probably my favorite one of all time is called Insidious.
Okay.
Just kind of probably came out 2010, 2011, but I just love kind of the shock and awe factor of
Right.
horror movies. Like I love being scared out of my pants. Just
Yeah. And how about of a traditional horror movie? Like what
oh gosh, probably
your guy?
probably Halloween and Michael Myers. Just all I remember growing up, and my mom would have AMC, the channel AMC, on the weeks prior to Halloween, and we'd just sit there. We'd watch all the Halloweens, all the Friday the 13th, and just kind of get amped for Halloween.
Right. And where are you with all this Taylor Swift hype?
I'm probably a Swiftie because of my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I think what she's doing for the NFL is great. You're definitely
Right.
bringing a lot of people kind of into the NFL. But at the same time, like we talked about earlier, love going to concerts and everything like that. I don't think kind of what, especially with the ticket scammers and resellers, things like that, I really don't think any show would be worth those prices.
Right, right. Free tickets to Miley Cyrus or Taylor Swift, which one do you go to?
Probably Taylor Swift.
I go to Taylor Swift too, but Miley Cyrus is remarkable.
Oh, I think that would be a great show.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit. I love this conversation and getting to know Matt Rietbrock a little bit better. But I want to talk to you a little bit about your work here at Miller and Miller. And you've been here for 2 years and a couple months, and I appreciate that. What we do here at Miller and Miller and helping people with their cases and getting their cases filed, you're really deep in the trenches, and it can be really stressful. The bankruptcy filing process has changed dramatically over the years, and getting everything that we need to get a case filed can be really challenging. But tell me a little bit about what your role is as a legal assistant here and kind of what a day in your life is.
Yeah, so we kind of really take over the files right before right before clients would speak with the attorney to get their case filed. So they'll collect all of their documents to get filed, and then about a 20, maybe 30-minute phone call with us just to review everything that we have, making sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And some of it, from what it does, clients do say it does seem a little repetitive, that we do go over the same information 3, maybe 4 times before filing. But at the end of the day, it's best for us to go over it 3 or 4 times, make sure all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, so that once we do get your case filed, that process runs as smoothly as possible. We don't have any hiccups come up of something we might not have known about. So I think, at least from the start, just making clients aware, like, it might seem repetitive, but we're really just doing this now so that once you're filed, it goes as smoothly as possible. And then once they talk with the attorney and get them filed, especially with Chapter 7 cases, we'll help them all the way through the discharge of their case. We'll help them with anything they need, calling for hearings, making sure they have all the information for their hearings, they understand Zoom, things like that, as well as contacting creditors that might not be following the automatic stay, and as well helping clients get and explaining reaffirmation agreements for their secured property like a home or a car.
Going back to the getting prepared to get it to the lawyer to file. So when we are getting ready to file a bankruptcy, they go through a document collection process. So if someone hires Miller and Miller and they are ready to go, they've paid the fees, they're ready to get their case filed, they go to what we call an onboarding coordinator who's responsible for collecting the documents, the getting their debts, getting the credit report, getting the taxes, getting deeds and mortgage. There's a credit counseling requirement that we need to get. So once it goes to the onboarding coordinator, it then comes to you and you have to prepare it to make sure it's ready to go with the meeting with the lawyer. And one of the things that you mentioned in this conversation was that clients get frustrated with the redundancy of the questions. And the reason we ask so much is because each conversation, there's so much going on, right? We're trying to take years of a client's story, of their narrative, and put it into a bankruptcy petition. So we're taking their story and putting it in the bankruptcy petition so that we can get their case discharged. And I noticed, and kind of doing what you do as well, that every conversation you have, even though you're asking the same questions over and over, you may always learn something new that's important. And tell me a little bit about that, about, you've talked to clients a couple times, you have another conversation. What are some things that you can learn? And if you're talking to a client, listen, I apologize that I'm asking the questions over and over again, but we're doing it for what reason? What's the primary reason for that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the biggest one would be, since they're entering all of their information in and things like that. The first thing, I guess, one of the most common errors that we see is really just an error in what they type when filling out the forms. Like if they're filling out their expenses and things like that, and they say, oh, I spend $1,000 a month on food or housekeeping supplies, but they accidentally put an extra zero on there. So when we go to fill in the petition, it looks like they spend $10,000 a month. Things like that, I would say, are the most common, where it's just that, as you know, that could cause a lot of problems, that extra zero when going to file a bankruptcy. So just making sure everything is cleaned up. And a lot of times as well, when you're verbally talking to someone about it, like their assets and debts, things like that, I found a lot of times just in the general conversation, they'll say, oh, I just remembered I have this, or I just remembered I have this. And so something that you might forget or leave out over the course of an email or a text message, things like that. And just kind of thinking a little bit deeper, going a little bit deeper into everything. You might have just forgotten something, typed in something wrong, but just making sure we get everything cleaned up kind of the best of our abilities.
Right. And some of those things, that's really important, is oh, yes, I forgot to tell you about what are some of the things on that list that you'll find out as you're questioning over and over again, specifically.
Yeah. Oh, I have a car I forgot to tell you about. I didn't think of it because it doesn't have a lien on it and I'm not making payments. Or just general expenses that might be every month. So they don't, and it just gets automatically deducted out of their paycheck or bank accounts that they just completely forgot about that they have. And then kind of taking a closer look at pay stubs as well. You can find out a lot of information that's needed for the bankruptcy by looking at pay stubs.
Right.
And clients in the past don't even realize that they have a 401k or a pension that they've been putting money into the entire time that they've been employed. And that's an asset that we need to make sure that we have, so that once the case gets filed, no questions are brought up because we already
Right.
have it.
Right. You know, and sometimes we have to laugh because we've had multiple conversations and they'll say, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you I drive Uber, or I forgot to tell you that I have a Harley Davidson motorcycle that's in my grandson's garage, or, the personal injury claim. It's all of these things that if they disclose it early and get it to us, we can protect it. It's not a problem. It's the things that they selectively think about, and you've become really good in kind of knowing what questions to ask and how to ask them, because people, one of the problems that we have with clients is that many of them don't pay attention to detail. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's your job to really poke and prod and ask really personal questions to make sure we get all the debts, that we get all the assets, that we get all the incomes, because a successful bankruptcy is really based on getting everything up front, making sure everything is correct and accurate. And you've been here for long enough that you really have a great sense of what a good bankruptcy looks like. And, if I could commend you on anything and on many things, is that you do things with a sense of humor. You do things respectfully, which I really appreciate. We have, many funny stories that we could talk about, and I think in our Miller memoir that we write in years to come, we'll include all of those. But I appreciate you, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast today
Thank you.
and to share your personal stories. And we will make sure that the Oconomowoc Police Department doesn't look into your background. We'll put something in here that prevents them from listening to it. But thank you. I appreciate your time today. You were a fantastic guest.
Thank you.